Terry, Terry, Terry. When will we ever learn? Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the show. So glad to see you all once again. And if you're new here, I'm just as happy to see you as well. This is the show where we go back and look at cartoons and movies and shows that we grew up on in the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s and talk about them as an adult. So if you think that's something you might enjoy, hit that like button right now. Because today we're talking about the second episode of the third season of Batman Beyond Untouchable, which originally aired on September 23rd, 2000.
You really haven't been in Gotham long, have you, kid?
So this episode has a really cool villain that we haven't seen before, the Repellar, I think he's called. It has some really unique powers. But I think the thing that really stands out about this episode is Terry digging himself in a hole again with his relationship with Dana. But we'll talk all about that right after the 60-second Beyond Bomb rundown of the episode. I didn't have anybody submit a rundown of the episode for me, so looks like I'm gonna have to do it myself. We start out at some sort of lab where we have this Repellar guy shows up and breaks in, and the guards can't stop him and steals some stuff. Batman tries to stop him, he can't stop him, and he's telling Bruce about all this in the Batcave, and Bruce goes, "Oh, I know where that's from," and he goes to his own research Wayne research facility, and they're going in there, and there's some medical things that they're doing with people that have immunodeficiency and this aura around them to keep out infectious diseases. And Bruce walks off with the doctors to learn more, and Terry starts talking with this girl that goes, "Oh, I've never been out. I don't know what it's like." "Oh, you should really try that sometime." And she's wearing the suit that is able to repel. And then Bruce is talking with her, and he goes, "Oh, could this be weaponized?" And the doctor goes, "Oh, I don't know who you think you are," and he kicks him out. And then Terry meets up with, Dana gets jealous again, of course, and Terry meets up with this girl, goes out on the beach, and she kind of makes a move, and he's trying to go, no, there's kind of this person, I have a friend, you know, and so she's got to hurry up and get back to the lab before this disease affects her, and oh boy, I'm not even close. And so when he's back there, she gets in trouble. Terry's banned from the facility, and then we see the Repellar guy, person, show up at this lab again to deliver this material and get paid off from these mobsters. He goes, "Oh, I still need some. I'll get it this time because I got stopped by Batman, but I'm going to kill him." And then the girl leaves again, Irene, I think her name is, and she shows up at the in the bio suit and is going, "Hey, Terry, I need your help." And he goes to try to help her, and then she sneaks back into the lab. And then when she's there, the doctor shows up and appears. He's the Repellar, and then there's a big fight ensues and gets buried in rubble. And then she finally helps out. And then in the end, Terry she's kind of trying to ask him to go hang out with her again, and she's now able to get out of the lab a little bit more. Terry goes, "Oh, there's this girl," and she goes, "Oh, wait, here's my boyfriend," and wah, Terry's left out in the cold, but he already has a girlfriend. I'm just as confused as you are. By the way, if you want to help me out doing these 60-second reviews, check out the link up here where you can submit your own and be part of the show. It's not as easy as it looks, trust me.
It's all right. I brought protection.
So we have this Repellar guy shows up, and the security guards are like cracking jokes and
Get a load of the freak in the long johns.
why would you try to do this? This guy is obviously a threat, obviously has some sort of powers. I'd be weirded out, but I guess if you live in Gotham, you're kind of used to that kind of thing.
You'll excuse me if I don't stay to chat.
This guy is really cool, the Repellar. What a cool ability. And I had read that Alan Burnett had this idea for a character called the Repellar when he was like 10, which is just crazy, and here it is, comes to fruition, is used in the show, and it is really kind of a cool power that you could just turn on this aura to like repel everything is kind of a formidable threat.
Nice try. But you're playing with fire, Batman.
Terry, Batman, kind of goes in a little cocky and just starts fighting this guy and doesn't know what his abilities are and just kind of runs straight in.
Couldn't even touch him. He repelled everything.
He could be a little bit more methodical about it and a little bit more careful when he faces up against a new foe. But it falls into that same trope that we saw before, where we have Batman shows up, tries to fight the villain, he can't do it, and then he kind of resets and learns more about him and then fights him another final battle and fights him in the end.
Haven't we danced this waltz before?
We've seen it before. We saw it in the last episode. We've seen it in several other episodes. And I do think it works better in this context because here is a new villain, a new threat. Batman doesn't know what he's dealing with.
Never seen anything like it.
I have.
But again, it's a little convenient that when Terry's describing this villain to Bruce and is going, I don't know, have you ever seen anything like this? He happens to know exactly where it came from, and it's his own lab. And that's another trope that we've seen time and time again.
How rare?
I think it would have been interesting, like they did with Shriek, where this villain shows up on the scene, is able to do something, they don't understand the tech, they don't know how it works, but it just seems a little convenient, a little easy for Bruce to go, oh, I know, it's my own lab that they've been working on something like this.
The ISO field generator ring.
I do like the interaction with the doctor where Bruce is talking with them and we find out the doctor's giving him kind of a hard time.
What makes you think you can rummage through my files like you own the place?
He's Bruce Wayne, he owns the place, his name's on the building.
Because I do.
But again, the challenge is with these kind of episodes, we have 20 minutes, 22 and a half minutes to really tell this full story. And especially when you're introducing a new villain, we got to set it up really quickly and kind of establish things very fast.
The rules apply to everyone.
But again, I think the thing that pulled most of my focus in this episode is the relationship between Terry and Dana.
Yeah, mature.
I don't know why Dana is wasting her time with Terry. I mean, I get it, he's Batman, he's got a job to do, but I'm like, Max knows he's Batman, so why don't he just tell Dana? I mean, that feels like it'd be bragging rights to be able to tell your girlfriend in high school that like, hey, by the way, I'm Batman, and that's why I can't be around all the time. And in this one, she kind of starts getting a little jealous, and we've got the subplot with Irene in there.
Sounds like your dream girlfriend.
I say all that as an adult. As a kid, maybe it wouldn't have been as obvious to me because this is the high school drama that I think they wanted to incorporate into the show, is having this high schooler, this teenager that is not only Batman, but is having to deal with all the things that teenagers have to deal with. Kind of the appeal of Spider-Man, being a real kid, dealing with real things.
Boys.
They may have made Terry a little too cool and too attractive and too interesting that it's like he's not trying to get a date, whereas Peter Parker is trying to get a date, trying to get the attention of girls, trying to figure himself out as this awkward teenager. We've got Terry that's kind of cool and hip and popular, and it just comes off a little smarmy.
Come on, Dana, it's not like that. She lives in a bubble, for Pete's sake.
He's dating two girls, and it's just kind of I don't know, it's not a great subplot. And they spend a lot of time in this, and I like how Irene is kind of part of the plot. And at one point I thought maybe she was going to be Repellar, but that would be sort of the 10 in the Royal Flush Gang kind of scenario. To me, it just, as an adult watching this, I'm going, Terry, just get a grip.
Hi, look, I'm a little busy right now.
Either tell Dana who you are, dump her, let her go, something, but it's just we're dragging this kind of plot out a little too long.
You like the attention.
And then when he goes to the Batcave to kind of commiserate with Bruce, it's like, oh yeah, you wouldn't understand. Bruce has some really corny line about,
When I was younger, women used to throw themselves at my feet all the time.
What'd you do?
I stepped over them.
I don't know, maybe some of this just didn't age well. It's not an easily relatable problem to see Terry and Bruce going through. Yeah, it's tough having all these women throw themselves at you.
Smooth.
I thought so.
I don't know if this episode was really well written. I think that they had this really great villain and kind of put him in this episode, and maybe, sometimes these episodes feel like they were kind of forced or thrown together quickly. In the case of this one, there's just some really kind of needed information or needed exposition that's in this, but is sort of thrown off, like the line about the lab being empty.
The lab will be rather empty, I'm afraid, but it should give you time to reflect on the irresponsibility of what you did.
I get it. Sometimes we have to just get that information out there, but it always seems like rather than just having somebody just say that or just delivering that information, it seems like there could be a more interesting way to get that information out.
Who was that? I don't know.
Now, I do think it's an interesting mystery where we have who is this guy, why is he doing what he's doing, and we've introduced all these characters and you don't know who it's going to be, and there's certainly some obvious choices which they didn't go with, which I appreciate. Oswald's drinking my coffee.
I knew a control freak like you would catch on to me eventually, Doctor.
I do like and they've done this before, but I do like this, the technique of kind of introducing this kind of bit part in early on and then kind of leading you down another path going, oh, it's probably this guy. He's more aggressive. And it turns out to be the doctor at the lab that we just sort of briefly established early in the episode.
It won't happen again.
But also I have to say, I don't care who you are or how confident you are as a villain. If you think you just killed Batman, I think it would be a bigger deal to you than just...
Batman? He's dead.
Big deal. Moving on with ourselves. I don't feel like his reaction to that matched up as well as it could have.
Scratch one bat.
And again, we have this villain that is a great formidable threat to Batman, and there's this little piece of information that came out from talking to Irene that indicated that sound was the way that he could stop, and he uses that and pulls him into this turbine and takes the headphones. And so finding that single weakness from the character and being able to deliver on it, that makes that final battle strong and not just this brute force strength, bring down the villain through just a force of will.
What are you going to do? Blow me away?
So in that sense, it's good that Terry was dating Irene, I guess, or went out with her to get that piece of information, because otherwise he may not have figured that out on his own. Good for you, Terry.
Something like that.
But again, the tag at the end, and maybe I'm just too far away from high school to know how high schoolers think or talk or whatever, but he couldn't find the right time to tell her he was dating Dana.
You probably don't want to hear this, but...
And likewise, she did the same thing to him. It was like, oh yeah, I couldn't find the time to tell you I was dating somebody else.
I'm sorry. I meant to tell you about him.
Maybe I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but it just, that didn't connect well for me.
And I was hoping to catch up on some homework tonight.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it is... I mean, it's okay. Again, I may have been extra distracted by the whole love triangle between Terry and Dana and Irene, and so that kind of distracted a little bit from it. I do think it's a cool villain. I wish they would have done something else with them. I wish that Repellar would have been in another episode or used in a different way. But it is a cool superpower, and it is a good kind of tie-in to how they made that plot work. But again, the reveal of the Doctor, as neat of a device as that is to go, oh, here's this character, the red herring technique that they kind of introduced this character early on and turns out to be him. We saw that before. I guess bottom line, it just didn't feel like a well thought out episode. So for all those reasons, it falls at the number 30 spot of my favorite episodes so far. Just below The Last Resort, which, you know, I felt the same way about that episode, that it just there wasn't much unique about it. It wasn't anything that really stuck with you or any moments in that really made me go, oh yeah, that one stands out or should be ranked higher. But I do have this one beating out Bloodsport because there at least was a story to this one. Bloodsport was just more of just two opposing forces battling it out against each other.
Better than I thought.
So I have to ask, what do you think is going on with Terry and Dana? Should they be together? I think I've asked this before, but it just seems to be a recurring theme. And I go through this a lot when I watch sitcoms, that these long-running sitcoms, is like, just either date each other or don't. Like this going back and forth is just getting exhausting. And I feel like they're doing a little bit of that in this episode. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend that you think might enjoy this as well. And be sure to stick around, hit the subscribe button, click the like button so you can see the episodes as they come out. And next up, we're going to be talking about the episode Inkwelling. I think I'm saying that right. Inkwelling. So you don't want to miss that. As always, Thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I will see you soon.